Back, you're watching Daybreak, and before we took that break, we were talking matters food security. Now we want to switch gears. Two big stories that are in the paper today. One, Tanga MP's alleged harassment. That's on page 6 of the Daily Nation, and on coincidentally, page 6 of the Standard, Central MP's quiet after Uhuru threat. But we want to take you to a story that was done by our Sam Gituku yesterday, and it goes as follows. Now, the president's outburst and the swift rejoinder from the so-called Tanga group has exposed tensions that have been simmering within the governing party.
So are things falling apart, or can Jubilee still rise from confusion? As Sam Gituku takes a closer look at the rift that appears to be widening by the day.
Throughout the session at the National Corino Conference, the two top leaders stared at the days following proceedings, tickled from time to time and engaging in chit-chat, mainly initiated by the deputy. What the deputy didn't know is the president's message of the day that was in a language not his. A spirited rant that lasted minutes, whose content is now subject to translation and interpretation.
Being coy in his message and knowing when and how to target his message, isolating and selecting the recipients of his message, and the other thing is this, knowing how to crush his opponents.
I think the president is telling his deputy in chief, stop it, let's work. You don't need rock science to understand easy body language. You don't need complexities of physics to understand verbal communication. And you don't need a linguistic stage to know the happenings around. The clouds are gathering, it's about to rain. And if you don't have an umbrella, there will be a torrent. And a tornado will sweep you to political oblivion in the cesspool of history.
The president accused unnamed people of betraying the Jubilee dream, urging members of parliament involved to return to their constituencies and resolve challenges of the citizenry, leaving everyone guessing which MPs he had in mind.
Mr. President was speaking specifically to a class of cacophonous political caste that is hell-bent, causing anarchy and chaos. A section of legislators, majorly from Central Kenya and Rift Valley, have been on a campaign pitching for Ruto's 2022 presidential ambition. Even though he rarely acknowledges the endorsement, his has been many rallies and inroads during which he has expressed his disdain for the Raila Odinga Kenyatta handshake, while questioning the manner in which the war on corruption is being fought.
By undermining the president, by consistently twisting the president, by using politicians, busybodies, to send a coded language to the message to the president, they're not, you are creating the suspicion.
Any legislator elected from the Mount Kenya region would bring himself or herself to an appreciation of one fact, that there is only so much the president can do against them right now. Because if they are going to the ballot, they're not likely to go to the ballot with the president as the head of the team or the head of the pack.
And take this to the bank or your nearest circle. Uhuru Kenyatta is insurmountable in the region. People can be pretentious, right? Seek some elusive political posturing that seem to suggest that they are going to dominate the Central Kenya region.
But through it all, Ruto has never openly shown his discontent with the president.
From millions of Kenyans with all capacities, wenye uwezo tofauti, wewe ulinichagua nikawa naibu yako. Mimi, Mheshimiwa Rais, I want to say I thank you very much for making me the person that I am today.
Even Judas Iscariot was so good to Jesus. But what happened is the one who betrayed Jesus. is not what they say that we take it seriously. It is what they do that justifies their relationship with the head of state.
It is creased loyalty. The government is there, but it is creased. And the ironing cannot easily be done, at least not from how things have turned out.
It is no longer at ease. The center cannot hold, no longer at ease in Jubilee.
The president has had his say without according an opportunity of response to the persons that he was targeting. The coming days, weeks and months will be open to interpretation by the recipients of that message. What's not in doubt is the impending impact, not just in the politics of the Jubilee Party, but of the nation. Sam Gituku, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
All right, so let us pick it up from there. Let me begin with the Honorable Alice. Let me begin rather with Cate Waruguru, since you're closer to on this other end. Was that specific speech that we saw on Sunday directed to his deputy chief?
I just want to speak my mind and say that, one, the president spoke in our vernacular, which is Kikuyu, meaning that his message was directed to us, Mount Kenya region people. And if this message was to be sent to the rest of the country, then we would have used the official languages. And our official language in this country is both English, Swahili, or sign language. So I believe that this message was sent to us as members of parliament, senators and governors.
And not to his deputy.
I would assume maybe in one way or the other he sent this message to him, but through us. It was not directed to him, because if the president intends to make a statement to the deputy president, he needs to look straight into his eyes or make his communication in the right way. But nevertheless, that said and done, I must say it was unfortunate what happened on Sunday, bearing in mind that this was in a church service.
What part of it was unfortunate? Okay.
It was unfortunate because this was meant to be a church service, and for the last time I checked, the president has kept insisting on us not doing church politics, and now this time I think things just went wrong, and he also chose to come to an Akorino church service and address the nation and address Mount Kenya region from the church platform. I must say it was also a bit uncomfortable for those of us who are not Kikuyu speakers and who were seated there, and they had to wait for the media and the rest of the Kenyans to interpret to them what was going on. Nevertheless, the president is on fire, he's angry, he's mad. I don't know whether specifically is at Mount Kenya region or with other factors to be considered, but I must say that I feel we're not headed towards the right direction as Jubilee, because I'll only speak for Jubilee because I'm a Jubilee member. Other coalitions which are working with us currently, whether under the handshake or whether under any other framework which is there, whether legit or not legit, formal or not formalized, I must say we are not doing well as Jubilee. And I want you to check and remember then back then the Jubilee Vice Chairman, David Murathe, the kind of sentiments he made the first time we started experiencing turbulence and problems in Jubilee Party. And until to date, I might challenge I must challenge ourselves and challenge the Honorable this man called Rafael Tuju, who happens also to be our CEO. He has not managed to call even for a single meeting or to mobilize the members of parliament and people who are in Jubilee Party for a single PG meeting. So my concern is, just give me 2 minutes, I make my point. My concern is, number one, we are in Jubilee Party and this party is governed, and one of its structures states that we need to be holding meetings regularly as need be. For example, we had a budget reading. I would have assumed that as Jubilee members we would have sat and discussed our issues, because we're in politics and we are bound to differ and we'll continue fighting each other, and it's only important that the party leader, who happens to be the president of the Republic of Kenya, and the deputy president would whip members. I don't believe that Mount Kenya region and our MPs have become such rebels that if the president calls us today, we will not go sit with him and reason with him. Okay. We are washing our dirty linen in the public, and I feel we are giving other coalitions and other political parties a chance to continue creating a wedge in Jubilee and unnecessarily bringing our own fights into now the national arena. Okay. And the House of Mumbi and Kikuyu, I still believe we have a chance. We have fought. We won the independence of this country not by fighting before the public, but as coming together as a house to reason and iron out our issues.
Collectively won by Kenyans, though.
Yeah.
Thank you. Honorable President, come into this discussion as well. We've just come from talking about food security and the issues plaguing this nation. And you mentioned politics also, I believe, and how it wades into this. Can the president really focus on the issues that are affecting ordinary Kenyans when clearly there seems to be other matters that he's very unhappy about?
I think that's the frustration he is expressing, that in a country with so much work, in a country in which he has outlined the Big Four agenda, in a country where a new budget has just been unveiled, there is still too much politicking around the environment. And you know what, the reason why countries like Ethiopia and Rwanda are beating us is this high, and to use Kabando's very big words, high octane politics. When our politics are very high, when the tenor of our politics is very high, it does mean that you can't concentrate on other national priorities that are supposed to be on the table, food security being among them, and the Big Four agenda that he has put in. So I think to the extent that he's expressing the frustration around, could we minimize the politics? Because time will come, 2022 will come, we will all be here in 2022. Can we minimize the politics of 2022 and first deal with the issues on the table right now? And I think he took a very, very harsh tone on the leadership in Mount Kenya and the Kikuyu nation. Can we minimize that? I think it is deserved because, I mean, we have presidents in Africa who have really rich legacy. I personally really still believe that our president can have the legacies that some of the presidents in Africa have had. But then the politics has got to come, you know, lower. The tone and the tenor and the speed at which we do our politics has got to come lower, so that in between you allow like 4 years of work and have only 1 year of the elections. But then the other thing about Kenya is also the political parties. I think we still have some work to be done around formation, strength, management of political parties. There's still some work there constitutionally and also in terms of law. So I also see a bit of a gap, because ideally he shouldn't have to speak in an Akorino church event. I mean, he should have a forum in which he could face off with the members of parliament. I think there is some bit of work around political parties management, political party internal dispute resolution in political parties, how political parties manage affairs, sharing of vision in political parties. Is this Big Four agenda, for example, a shared vision across all our leaders in the Jubilee Party? So a bit of work needs to be done. But I hope that the messages now, having been issued in such a tough line, I hope that it now sinks in. And even for you guys in media, you see how quickly we left food security to jump to the Tanga and Kieleweke politics. I mean, I think the message is to all of us. We should spend a whole show on food security, not have spend a quarter. We're spending only a quarter on food security.
In our defense, we have discussed food security many times.
Nothing to do
many
with
times.
Yeah.
All right, let me bring in Honorable Gladys Wanga. You saw the president saying that members of parliament, listen, you need to go back to your counties and get the job done. Go back and serve the people that elected you instead of these games that we're seeing around. Was the president admitting that they are, quote unquote, perhaps thieves within his government?
I think I was at Kasarani on Sunday, and the president was visibly agitated, and I can see why. Because it's been almost like a year since he said, maybe a year and a half since he said, look, politics will come. For now, let us go back to work. Let everybody focus on their work for which they were elected. Members of parliament, go back to your constituencies. At the national level, can we leave this 2022 politics? Actually, I'm not a member of Jubilee, but I'm a supporter of the handshake and the unity that this country has achieved following the handshake. So I think when the president says that, and he's the leader of a party, I expect his troops to fall in line, and that is how things should work.
Has he lost control of the party himself? Has he lost control of his troops?
I think it would appear so, and that would be what would be frustrating him. That I have said, let's go this way. And what the president was doing, in my view, he was not addressing just the leaders. He was addressing the nation, the Kikuyu nation. He was telling them, look, these are the people you brought me here, or you brought up here, and look what they are doing. So I think if I were MPs from Mount Kenya, I would sit back and think about what the president was saying and whether there is need for change of tact. You know, my party leader, Raila Odinga, is not the president of the country, he's my party leader. But when he says that we are going in a certain direction, we move, by the way, in that direction. Because there has to be order. You ask questions, we will ask questions, but we will ask questions as we move on. But when he says this is the direction...
that you believe is democratic.
Yes, you know, there has to be leadership, Waiga. Even in your house, there has to be leadership. When the Bible says the head is the father, the mother, and the rest, there has to be a point where when the leader speaks, the troops fall in line, and then people, continue the conversation as we move on. But this one of the president says this, and people are moving in the opposite direction. And this message was meant, by the way, for the deputy president, who is the one who's leading these troops in daily campaigns. The president is frustrated that his own deputy, with whom they ran on the same ticket, cannot listen to him. And that thing of, I am loyal, you are the one who chose me, and so on and so forth, total double speak. It's not about what you say, it's about what you do. And it's not about what you say when the president is there, it's about what you say even when he is not there. And look at those rallies. Those rallies, it's like we are having, it's like we are having an election tomorrow, by the way. If you look at those rallies where we are saying, 2022, it's like 2022 is tomorrow. It's not tomorrow. Let the president achieve his legacy. The big four, when is he going to do it? When we are all pulling in different directions.
So is the country's development tied to Jubilee Party and whether they are able to have their meetings?
The party's development is largely tied to its politics.
Which then is affecting the development of the country.
This is what President Moi said. The country's development is largely tied to the nature of our politics. And I think that is why the president moved to have the handshake. Because he knew it was going to be very difficult for him to achieve his legacy if the country was divided into two and moving in opposite directions.
Okay.
And then he's run into another hole from there.
Let's bring in Honorable Alice Wahome. You're quoted on the Daily Nation saying that you're being harassed, that a certain suit against you back in 2012 has resurfaced again. Could you comment further on that?
First of all, is that true?
That is true. There is a matter that we handled the estate of the late Koinange in several advocates, actually more than 10 advocates. And we handled a big account where we have disbursed money through the court, through orders, through agreements with clients. And sometimes back in 2011 or 2012, one of the clients complained, others joined in. They wanted to actually understand how the account was disbursed. But of course, that matter is before the High Court in Nairobi. It's a succession matter. I'm sure you have been covering, the media has been covering. The matter is still pending. And any questions regarding an account of an estate is actually the subject matter of a decision by the judge handling the succession matter.
Do you believe it's being used against you?
Before that is done, then you cannot start claiming that there is a criminal element in the matter. In fact, the succession court has both quasi, it's a quasi like criminal and civil jurisdiction. So it can actually address itself to any criminal aspect of a matter and then refer to the relevant arms of the government that can then investigate if it finds that there is any loss. But of course, that matter, the police have been sitting on it. They pull and, basically seeking rent, rent seeking, so that they don't prosecute. That has been happening, and of course there's really no, in my view, and I don't want to say much because the DCI has addressed himself to the issues, I suppose. As a lawyer, I don't think he has made his work, he has made his homework, done his homework well. He has referred the file to the DPP, and suddenly, of course, the file was concluded within 2-3 weeks from 2012, suddenly concluded. And I have information that somebody called for it so that they can highlight the name of Alice Wahome.
So you believe it's being used against you to politically harass you?
But I don't think they'll go very far. I have faith in courts. I have faith in the office of the DPP, because finally the DPP would have to make a decision. That's a purely succession matter. It's not a criminal matter, and there is no way for advocates can sit and take away money without the court making an intervention.
Okay, as you mentioned, it's a matter before the court, so
but you can look at Sunday Standard and see how it was given a lot of prominence, a whole 2 pages regarding the subject, which is the 2012, suddenly becomes very critical.
Let's talk about the targeting. Why you?
Why do you think you're being targeted?
Many of us, not
I
just
think
her.
this morning, this morning I'm taking the Honorable Rahab Mukami to the DCIO, Nyeri, Mukurweini DCIO this morning at Parliament Station, police station, to I think, discuss with him. According to him, he wants to see whether there is a criminal matter that the Honorable Mukami should be facing. And we'll be going there at 10 o'clock. And I think that is following the meeting at Mukurweini. And if you look at, last Sunday, and if you look at the way the Honorable Kabado, former member of parliament for Mukurweini, you can see a lot of anger and pain, maybe, because obviously he can see that the person who replaced him, I think, had a very good meeting in Mukurweini. If you look at Kutuni, the way they are talking, they are full of disdain for the deputy president. And so when we come here and now want to discuss the matter of even now harassing members of parliament, including the statement on Sunday in the Akolino,
especially Mount Kenya members of parliament.
And this was addressed to the Mount Kenya people as a nation, and also directed to the members of parliament. I have been thinking about it and analyzing, and clearly, I think if you look at the newspapers, there is one that says Central MP is quiet after Uhuru threat. You know, it would be a sad thing if the nation expects members of parliament should be quiet because the executive, the president, has actually said you shut up. We are politicians elected to speak and represent people on behalf of the people. Some of the things that you are now discussing on this table regarding production is bad government policy. And when members of parliament come together and they want to actually make interventions or even discuss together, especially from our region, we have never been encouraged, we have never been supported to come together. Indeed, any single meeting for Mount Kenya region is normally disrupted and receives very bad feedback and very bad, any single meeting from when? Mount Kenya region. From the last, I've served this my second term. From 2013. From 2013, we've never been encouraged or supported to actually have our own caucus. And you know what? The region is suffering in terms of pushing political matters that affect the region. Because even as we speak for the nation, we must speak first for the people who elected us. So I do not agree with anybody that will say that the president had a right to speak the way he spoke. He has a right to give some direction. He has a right to actually caution us. But he has no right to insult, to actually abuse, ridicule, and demean members of parliament elected just like he has been
So why
elected.
do you think you're being harassed? Is it because you support the DP?
He's expressing frustration, and it is obviously, it's looking at the things that even the police are doing. It is people who are discerned or viewed to be supporting or accompanying His Excellency, the Deputy President, to their constituencies. Because like in Mukurweini, His Excellency was actually a guest of the people of Mukurweini, and the Member of Parliament has to be there. So for me, I think I would really think that Jubilee, as a party that has the mandate to govern the country, is in big trouble. We have been saying it is not in trouble. We have been and we are working, and we really have been seeking and demanding parliamentary group.
But now you're saying big trouble.
I think it is trouble because
I know you would come in.
Because when His Excellency expresses himself in that manner, exposes the people from his region to ridicule and insult from people like where they come from, and we have previously attacked each other, and then you want to come and talk about embrace, talk about handshake, then you need to first sort out the mess in your house. Bring your people together. Should we be spoken to like that, or we should be summoned or called in a meeting? There are structures to address even errant members, including disciplinary.
Okay, briefly.
Two things I must make very clear. I was elected by the people of Laikipia through Jubilee ticket. My governor, Derito Mureithi, is an independent candidate. We have a number of who are independent candidates and still are independent members of parliament. The last time I checked the Honorable Nyokabi, she was vying for Nyeri Women Representative seat as an independent candidate with my brother, the Honorable Kabado, who was just speaking. So I want to make this clear, that the president himself, he is in charge of Jubilee Party, but he's not going to be in charge if he's not going to put his house in order by calling us together and allowing us to reason and iron out our issues away from the ridicule of coalitions like NASA coalitions or even other individuals.
Okay, is it fair to use the term ridicule?
Yes, it's ridiculous. Let me say so. And I'm getting there on my second point. I will say it's ridiculous.
But where you use language against others, I will have to call you.
I will say it's ridiculous because if you do not subscribe to the ideologies of a certain political party, then you have no right to give us lectures how we should run a party. You have no right to tell us how we need to work or how we don't need to work.
Okay.
That's what I mean. Okay. So that is ridiculous.
You've made your point. What's the second
number
point?
two, the second point is around the handshake.
Okay.
Because the handshake was between His Excellency the President of the Republic of Kenya, Uhuru, and Right Honorable former Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga. And this was not put into the picture into the Jubilee Party. We have never been addressed in a single parliamentary group to tell us, look guys, this is where we are and this is why we decided to do this and this is the agenda, so that we don't get misconceptions about what handshake it is until today.
Okay.
The BBI, the Building Bridges Initiative, they have 11 more counties now to cover before we get their report on what Kenyans have told them they are in dire need of as far as constitutional reforms are concerned. So my point is, Mr. President, how are we able to continue together if we will continue shouting at each other in the public, we'll continue fighting our in-house Jubilee Party issues outside there in the public, other than us going inside Jubilee Party and sorting our issues. Okay. And also trying to make sure that Raila Amolo Odinga and his affiliates do not take advantage of the handshake to continue creating divisive politics inside Jubilee. Because you cannot tell us you are handshaking candidate A and candidate B should be locked out. We need everybody to be put inside so that all of us we handshake. And when we believe in it, we'll move together as a country.
Let me say, what is so difficult in the Jubilee MPs just listening to what the president is saying? He's saying two things. One, let's have a peaceful, cohesive country for all of us. Two, let us shelve early campaigns or early politics. Those are the two things the president is saying. And his frustration is because he said this so many times and they're not heeding. Every weekend, it's 2022, sijui who, 2022, sijui who. Handshake is bad, like the insinuations that Honorable Waruguru is making on this table, that my party
I didn't say handshake is bad. Don't put words in my mouth. I questioned why there was a
Don't interrupt.
Right. Let's make a comment.
Yeah, because we are not in a, we are not fighting. We are just debating.
Right.
By saying that, because the point she was making is Honorable Raila Odinga is using the handshake to create divisions. All that Honorable Raila has said is we shook hands and we are supporting the president in his agenda. I don't think there's any single day that he has said so-and-so is bad and so-and-so is good. The only problem is that one section of Jubilee, led by the deputy president, have not accepted the handshake. And you do not know for what reason. And this is part of the frustration that the president is facing. If you're talking about BBI not being discussed, we had a motion in Parliament about the Building Bridges initiative. We passed that motion. I don't know where Honorable Waruguru was, but we passed a motion in Parliament, setting off the BBI. So if you come here and say that I was never told about BBI,
I talked about
one minute.
Okay, that I was never told about the BBI.
I didn't talk about BBI.
All right.
This thing of
let's one at a time, ladies.
This thing of disrupting, when people speak, they just have their space to speak. You don't disrupt each other. That is, civil debate. So what I was saying is Parliament passed a motion. So the excuse that we were never told about BBI is neither here nor there. So this is what I want to say. The president is asking two simple things. This thing of 2022 campaigns, please stop it. Do you know I mean, all of us could be out there campaigning for our candidates, but all we've said is, let's focus on the Big Four agenda. The president expects that from his troops. Let them not make many excuses. If I were them, I would sit back, listen to what the president said, like a father can admonish a child, instead of challenging the president. The party leader is the party leader, but when your party leader is the president, he even holds more weight. When he makes a statement, don't come challenging and saying unfortunate, saying this, saying the other, saying that. Follow.
Yeah. All right, let's hear the comments of Honorable Priscilla.
It's my turn.
Let's not part of the debate. Let Honorable Nyokabi, who hasn't spoken.
Yes.
Okay.
And I want
Nyokabi talk.
Come in now. Go ahead.
Yes, I want to end it as we say in law. Nothing would be easier than to stop politicking and do the work. nothing would be easier. Instead of debating what he meant and what he didn't mean, nothing would be easier than to stop politicking and concentrate on the work. And Kenyans want work done. The commission that I serve in represents special interest groups, the women, the youth, the marginalized, the minorities, the persons with disability, the children, the elderly. They want some work done, really. So nothing would be easier.
And they're not seeing it
than to stop,
happening yet.
Not as fast. I mean, some good work is going on. I mean, really, honestly, for our country. But it can be faster, so and it can get better for citizens. Look at what we discussed about food security.
Yes.
We can have a much better and better debate, for example, with Jubilee proposals and NASA proposals, ANC proposals and Ford Kenya proposals on what do we do with food security. That is a much better debate than what we are now having.
Right.
So for me, nothing would be easier than to stop all this politicking and just get the work done. So that tomorrow when we wake up in the newspaper, it is no longer the politics of what's going on. It is much more, and you know, in all of these sectors that we are speaking about, in health, for example, if you sat here on a health show, you would have so many solutions to some of the things that we need to do. Sure. And we have a bill like, now on national referral facilities, what you need to do for the referral facilities, what you need to do for the UHC. So nothing would be easier than to cut the politics and to just get down onto the work that we have. And the time for politics will come. And I mean, it is true that politicians are supposed to politic all the time, but you can also have politics of development. You can have politics of change. You can have politics of transformation, which is what the president is saying. Let's just end it there and not, because now we are going to have another round of members of parliament fighting each other, the country torn apart. Let us go back to work. Right. Nothing would be easier than to stop the politics for all of us.
You know, I need to challenge Wanga.
But if you challenge, she will need to respond.
And we need to take a commercial break. After the commercial break.
After the break, we'll give you a
But
chance.
no closing comments after the commercial
and one
break.
at a time. One at a time, please, okay? And we'll use civil language. We'll use civil language as we have this discussion.
And everyone gets their time to talk.
We have some feedback before we take that break. Can we take a look at that? All right, here's what we have. Buru Mo says, Jubilee government and President Uhuru have failed Kenya. Central Kenya is part of the failed dream. It's unfortunate that he's against other progressive leaders, Alice Wahome and others occupying the space. The ground has shifted. The president feels threatened.
All right, that's on Twitter. Remember, the hashtag is Daybreak. Hillary, you say... Wakabado cannot claim to talk for Jubilee. He was humiliated in Murukweni and he hasn't overcome that. Let him talk all he wants, but DP is heading in the right direction. Okay, some supporters there for the team Tanga Tanga. Let's see, Harry Veritas. It's really unfortunate when the president expresses his disappointment publicly. Let him call for a meeting and iron out things. This public drama won't help. Let the president and his deputy call for a crisis meeting. Okay. All right. Do we have another last tweet? Okay. Okay, let's see. MC, you say what the president is doing to the Mount Kenya people is not fair at all. He has been moody anytime he comes to the region, but joyful when in other regions. We struggle to put him where he is, but we can see now the direction he wants to take us. We still have votes, and 2022 is not far. Okay, that's just on Twitter. SMS, let's take a look at it, and I'll read it too on my iPad. John says, the president was right. This is the time for development, not politics. Central MPs should focus on development agenda in their constituencies. We also had some SMSs in regards to food security. Patrick Kimanzi from Wajir said government should close that companies that order food outside our country, so that farmers can get their portion. That's one proposal. While Murigi from Meru says the issue of expensive farm produce in Kenya should be looked at beyond zero rating inputs to include cost of labor, county levies, expenses in the supply chain, and land economies of scale. And one last one, George Dan from Kananga, Homa Bay. I want to concur with Honorable Wanga. We really need to do value addition to our fish, at least a processing plant in Lake region. And this is George Dan who sent in that message as well. We take that break now? Yes, when we come back, we'll get the closing comments from our female panel. Stay with us.